On the drive back from Nashville on Friday, my family and I listened to Christmas music. Now, it was after Thanksgiving, which is as long as I can hold the line, and we really went for it. Like 6 straight hours of Christmas music. We listened to Apple's Essential Christmas Playlist. 99 songs. And I can tell you, after 99 songs, Apple and I disagree on what is essential about Christmas. It was 3 hours before they played anything religious. And this might surprise you, but I'm partial to religious Christmas music. Look, I like Kissing My Baby Beneath the Mistletoe as much as the next guy, but it was 3 hours before the playlist took a passing glance at anything religious with "O Come, All Ye Faithful." That was song number 59. Silent Night snuck in there at song number 69, right before Idina Menzel's duet with Billy Porter, "I Got My Love to Keep Me Warm." Now, I'll tell you what, this is driving across Arkansas, like a bit of cognitive whiplash. You're yanked straight from "Round Yon Virgin, Mother and Child" to "Off with my overcoat, off with my gloves. Who needs an overcoat? I'm burning with love." I want to note here in passing that our church Advent devotional this year is called "The King Shall Come," and it's based on the music, not of Christmas, but of Advent. You can go to our website each day. There'll be a new devotional reflecting on a piece of music, as well as links to hear that music online. The devotionals were written by church members and staff, by Bruce Austin, Deacon Erica, Tim Anderson, Eddie Black, and Laura Bray. To my knowledge, none of them reflected on overcoats and their usefulness when you've got your love to keep you warm. You can sign up to have this devotional also delivered to your inbox each day. You'll know some of the pieces of music, I'm sure, but a lot of them you won't, because the Advent themes of waiting and of expectation and of longing, they are somewhat at odds with our culture's like the most wonderful time of the year sentiment. So many pieces you won't know as well. As Erica wrote, this devotional is a way to help us feel what Advent is like. So I encourage you to sign up for that or participate online. But back to Apple's playlist for a moment. Something quite surprising happened near the end. The very end of the playlist is Auld Lang Syne, the New Year's song. And secularly speaking, that makes sense, right? That's like the period for culturally speaking, for the holiday season. But the last religious song, right at the end, was Ella Fitzgerald's rendition of "We Three Kings." Now, "We Three Kings" is actually not a Christmas song. It's an Epiphany song. Epiphany is January 6th. It's the day we celebrate how Christ was revealed as King of the nations. And the fact that this managed to be at the end of the religious Christmas music, I thought maybe it was just coincidence. But I really feel like somebody at Apple grew up in a church. Like they put the last Christmas song at the end of Christmas. And the chorus of "We Three Kings," right, you know it, it's about the star. He goes, "Oh," and then it's like, "Star of wonder, star of light, star of royal beauty bright." It's all about the star. And the star, we all know, famously serves as like a proto-GPS system for the wise men and their camels, guiding them directly to the baby Jesus. That's its functional purpose, the thing we all learn about when we're, in a Christmas pageant growing up or something. But this Christmas star has a theological purpose as well, and that's that all creation responds to the birth of the Son of God. At Jesus' first coming, like even the stars got involved, to say nothing of the stable animals or the sheep bathed in the heavenly light when the angels appeared, or the hay in the manger Jesus is lying in. Like when Jesus comes, all creation responds. And if all that happened at Jesus' first coming, the hidden, humble, quiet night in Bethlehem, how much more is all creation going to get involved at his second coming? And that's what our reading today is about. Listen, there will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth distress among nations confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. Oh, stars from heaven, moon and sun, distress, confusion when he comes. You guys don't know that chorus, but that's what the second one is about. And the point of all this is to show that the return of Christ is a cosmic event. Like, what are the angels going to say here in 3.5 weeks at Christmas? They're not going to say, peace to you handful of shepherds in this here field. They're going to say, peace on earth. Right? And the return of Christ is equally a cosmically sized event. Fred Craddock, a famous preacher and writer, he put it beautifully. He said, the human heart is too small a screen to display the glory of God. Like, our heart's like, the size of your phone, more or less. God needs a theater. Even an IMAX screen won't do it. The glory of God can only be projected on the screen of the universe. That's why baby Jesus needed a star. And that's why the returning Jesus will come with a cloud, with signs, and the sun, and the moon, and the stars. And if we can avoid being sort of just struck dumb by the magnitude of it all, this is an exciting thought. This thing we're doing here in this modestly sized room in McKinney, Texas, ultimately will affect the sun. Like, the sun, as a reminder, can hold 1.3 million Earths. This Jesus for whom we wait is a big deal. Sometimes we do this thing with our faith where we make it like all about us. That God's really just concerned with us, like our feelings, what help we need, what sins we have that need to be forgiven. This subjective gospel, the gospel that you and I as subjects experience, like, this is important, but our subjective experience cannot capture the gospel. We are too small. Now, I told you why this is an exciting thought, I think, but it can also be a hard thought. The hard bit about this thought is that we begin to think of ourselves like ants in the path of a bulldozer. There's a huge difference in magnitude between the Son of Man coming with signs in the heavens and riding on the clouds, and me who rides in a Ford Expedition. Like what are we when the powers of heaven get shaken? And yet Jesus, in the last paragraph of our reading, talks about the effect this is supposed to have on us as subjects. He says, be on guard, so that your hearts are not weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life, that day does not catch you unexpectedly like a trap. Now, there are 3 heavy weights here Jesus talks about: dissipation, drunkenness, and the worries of this life. I'm going to trust that drunkenness is a relatively straightforward concept for many of you. Those of you who have fought that demon in your life and stayed sober are testimonies to us all. Dissipation is like a flat tire sort of life. It's like where all the joy and the desire and the zest and the energy have just sort of leaked out. And usually that happens because you've spent your life chasing joys and desires that are fleeting. And then the worries of this life. I mean, come on. Who here is good at worrying about this life? All right, there's like 4 honest people and 100-something liars. Jesus' warning is to be alert. Guard yourself about that stuff. Stay spiritually fit, because you never know when that day will come upon the earth, or we never know, I suppose, when our direct ticket to the end will get punched unexpectedly. So, on the one hand, Jesus here is like the sun and the moon and the stars. And on the other hand, he's like, you, yes, you, be alert. Because the Son of Man is going to come and you are going to stand before him face to face. So we have these 2 sort of theological extremes. And there's some theological words, I'm going to teach them to you this morning, about these 2 qualities of God. The great bigness of God is called God's transcendence. Okay? And the direct personal quality of God is called God's immanence. Transcendence and immanence. The Son is a transcendent thing. It is great big. But you cannot make the Son immanent. Like if you get close, you will cook. Your dog is immanent. Right? It is close and it's snuggly, and just look at those eyes. But your dog cannot be transcendent. Like the number of human beings who care about your dog is like a rounding error, right? Like I'm not trying to say anything about your dog. It's just like that's the way dogs work, right? So the Son is transcendent, dogs are immanent, but God is both. Advent, in fact, is about waiting for a God to bridge this chasm between transcendence and immanence. And first, that happens at Christmas. You have the Son of God, which is pretty transcendent, concept, held in the arms of his teenage mother in a small village in Bethlehem, which is really imminent. And then the second coming, right, the promised one, he comes riding on clouds with signs in the heavens, which is a pretty transcendent move, bringing redemption to those who stand before him, face to face, which is really imminent. So we worship the God of the whole universe, and one day we will stand before him. And that's pretty amazing. Now, in conclusion, I want to show you something that I think is just the coolest thing about this passage, about Jesus' teaching here. So if you look at your gospel reading, if you take it out, it's on page 4. I preached about the first paragraph, the one with the sun and the moon and the stars. That's the transcendent paragraph. And then I preached about the last paragraph, the one about our need as individuals to be alert, about the imminent relationship we have with God. But what about the middle paragraph? I skipped it. There's a fig tree in it. Or really, Jesus says, all the trees. Trees are amazing. Like, there's a tree in my backyard that was probably alive when the Civil War took place. I've climbed trees. I've stood at the bottom of great big trees just in awe. I live in a house, you probably do too, made of nailed together trees. I printed my sermon on a tree. Right? Trees are both like way bigger and older than us, and also like useful to us for our will. They're both human-sized and also like cosmic things. They're part of nature like the sun and the moon in paragraph 1, and yet they are the objects of our will, which is what Jesus is talking about in paragraph 3. So Jesus uses the tree essentially to connect, to bridge paragraph 1 to paragraph 3. And in Jesus' teaching about the parable here, the trees are sprouting leaves because summer is near. Trees, of course, have no control over summer. That has to do with the sun and the position of the earth in its orbit and a host of other factors that completely transcend the tree. But the tree does have to individually respond to the transcendent forces around them. The transcendent deeply affects the individual tree. So also you and me. We must both touch the transcendent and act personally. Like we await the signs in the sun, and yet also await the call from the doctor. We resist the roaring of the seas and also have to resist the siren song of debauched living. While those around us are spiraling in fear about the ways the world could end, we are to set aside the worries of this life. We wait for a God of cosmic proportions, and yet our individual response is to sprout a new leaf of love. Jesus didn't describe the coming of the end as the trees getting ready for winter. Spiritually speaking, it's the trees getting ready for summer. Jesus is suggesting that as times get harder, when it feels like the end draws nigh, the people of God are to burst forth with new life. So those of us who live in this generation, as Jesus calls it, the people who live between the first Christmas and Christ's return, we don't control what is coming upon the world. We have a God of the universe for that. But we do control how we respond. One day we're going to stand before the God of the universe, covered, I hope, in the new growth of love. The times were hard, we'll say. So we knew it was time to sprout in love. Amen.